Today we're going to have a look at the Fedora 42, just released about a month or so ago, and we're getting a chance to have a look at the actual release. I did look at, I think, the Plasma beta of this because, of course, with Fedora starting at 42, Plasma is now an official build, no longer a community build. And I wanted to actually start by looking at the installer. This is a fairly new installer, and I think this installer is so much better now. Fedora has always had one of the better installers in Linux, but this one, they just streamline it so much better. They made it a lot more intuitive and easy to use. So I want to go ahead and show you the installation here. So you start in by choosing your language, and you can also look at your keyboard layout. There's a menu here. It's just about report issue and nothing else is there. So we're going to go ahead and click our next. And I'd like that to go away now. There you go. So here we can go ahead and we can change the destination if there are other drives in the system. Now, what I didn't test is, does it put the bootloader on the correct drive? That is actually something that Linux Mint does not handle right. Even though you can specify where to put it, it actually messes up and always puts it on SDA. But you can choose how you want to install it. Do you want to share the disk with the other? So this would be if you wanted to do a dual boot type system. So if you have a Windows system and you want to try and dual boot with it. Now, I am not a huge advocate of dual booting on the same hard drive, but this installer does make it easy for you to do. There is use the entire disk, which will wipe out the current drive and use the whole drive. And then you can do a manual configuration of it as well. So go ahead and choose this, and then you can encrypt your data or not. And you can go ahead and choose your passphrase if you are doing that. Make sure you have the right keyboard layout. I actually did an encrypted system the other day, and it was on a Raspberry Pi, which defaults to UK English, and I forgot about that. And some of the special characters in the keyboard weren't the right, and I had to figure out how to get in there so I could get my password changed. So be aware of that. So I love the fact that they actually do tell us what is the keyboard layout on the passphrase selection. That is actually something you may not always think about. I'm not seeing exactly which file system it's using. I think it probably uses Btrfs, but let's see if it tells us otherwise. So boot is ext4, and your basic your home partition and your home partitioner is set up as Btrfs. So that's correct. So there we go. Fedora 42 workstation, doing entire disk. And we are deleting the old drives. We're creating the new one, and the unknown Linux will be deleted. It is unknown. I have no earthly idea what is on there. So once you click this button, it's going to erase the data and install. So once you do this, it just goes through and it begins the whole installation system. Now, I've already installed this, so we're going to stop just short of this. No changes are made to this particular VM. And I want to show you the system once we get ourselves booted in, once we set it up. Of course, as Fedora always, you set it up without a user account. That's a little bit different from many Linux distributions. So the first boot, you set that up. So you get your user account set up, choose your location services on or off, a few other settings. And there's also a cloud client system. That's something that you'd be aware of if you're doing things like Red Hat or stuff like that. So we'll go ahead and have a look at what the login manager looks like next. Logging into the system, we are on our GDM login manager. Now, I'm going to point out this here. So Fedora and Gnome are both transitioning out of X entirely. So this is Fedora 42, which is still running Gnome 48, which still has X in the system. And then 49, Gnome 49, is going to do a soft removal of X. So it's not going to be compiled, but distributions still wanting to use Gnome on Gnome 49 will be able to add that flag on compile to get the X in there. And that's really a dry run to see how well does the system run without X at all. And then once they get to 50, they're pulling all the code out. As far as Fedora, where it's going. Now, Fedora 42 on Gnome here, we had a situation where a lot of people, they come down here and they're like, my X has disappeared. Now you'll see here on my screen, my X is there. Now they had indicated in some of the documents that They brought this back because too many people complained. However, even on my system, which had all the system upgrades installed after I installed it, it still did not bring this back. So I actually had to add a package which brings X back to GDM. I think that it's all there. It's just that the GDM package did not have the X in it. So I had to install that as a separate, and in an interesting reversal here. So as I've always tested distributions in the past on VirtualBox, whenever I was using our systems, I'd always have a way better experience on X than on a Wayland system. With this version, Wayland works way better than does X. X works. It's not a good experience. So I'm going to go back to my regular Gnome. We're going to log in my super secret password. It's definitely not 123. And we are going to get onto the desktop. And I have not done anything to this except running my basic updates. And I did install those packages in order to get the X back up on the login screen on GDM. So if you're unaware of what I'm talking about, if you're new to Linux or exploring it, there's several login managers. That screen we were just looking at is called the Login Manager. And there's a number of those. GDM is the one that comes with Gnome. There's LightDM. There's, what's the one that comes with Plasma? I forget the one that comes with Plasma. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I'm not going to mention it because I'm not 100% sure about it. I usually use LightDM. That's the one that comes with Linux Mint. That's the one I like the most. So I've actually worked to put LightDM on most of my login managers. So let's go ahead and have a look at our terminal here. And it should have the commands that I ran in the terminal here. So this is actually what I installed. This was from a help doc. This is what I ran in order to get X showing back up on the login window. So if you do need that, I think this one, Gnome Session, X Session, I think that's the one that probably does it, but we went ahead and added all of those as well. Of course, I did my upgrade right here inside of the terminal. So let's go ahead and enter my super secret password once more. See if there's any more updates. I think I ran this a couple days ago, so we'll see if anything else has showed up. So just a few updates needed there. I'm going to go ahead and not do updates right now, lest I'm here for 10 minutes trying to do updates. So that's, of course, the terminal. If you don't like terminals, that does come with the Gnome Software Manager. This one here, I have a love-hate relationship with the Gnome Software Manager. I love it in the fact that it's consistent. It works well. It allows you to run, I think you can run Snapsuit. I know it supports full Flatpaks. You can do automatic or manual updates. You can toggle everything on and off. You can show only verified software, show only free software. There's a lot of cool options that it has. What I don't like about it is it just feels bloated. So here is where you can look at what is installed over here. So these are, I went ahead and told it to install the non-free repositories, which are the RPM Fusion. Now, I don't use NVIDIA, so I can turn that one off. Let's go ahead and do that. And let's see, there's Steam. I'm not going to run Steam, but I don't mind if it's there or not. Google Chrome, so I'm not using that one, so we'll kick that guy off. And let's see, FlatHub. So FlatHub is configured, so when we're doing searches in here, we'll find Flatpaks as well. So everything else will just kind of keep the way it is. But this is why I like the Gnome Software Center. Is it does work. It is consistent. It is, however, ugly and kind of a little buggy. So that's something. Let's go ahead and search for a package here. Let's look for Audacity. Is one you generally need to use RPM Fusion for. So here is a Fedora version. There's a Flatpak version. So it looks like this is the Flatpak version. This is the RPM version of it. So there are a number of options. So if you're installing software, you can choose where you are grabbing it from. There's Tenacity as a fork of Audacity. In my tests, Tenacity does not really work any better. And since Audacity has handled the controversies appropriately, I don't really care. Let's look at Kden Live. It's what I use for my video editing. So let's see, we have a flat pack. We have an RPM version of it. So there you go. You have a number of different options in there to look for. So there's how you're going to install software. And really, if you're new to Linux, you're exploring it here, you can just click on the various things. This is another thing I don't like about it. They're using these weird kind of cutesy things like your work and your play and you develop and you learn and you socialize. It used to be way better when it's like, show me the internet related applications, show me the office related applications, show me the game related applications. So I just don't like it. It just feels more childish. I don't know if it's because between the bright colors and the rounded corners, or if it's the fairly unprofessional levels that they're using, but it works. It's functional, and I can search for the software that I need. Now you'll notice there's a lot of icons not missing. That's because our internet's not good. Eventually those will populate themselves. So you can install a lot of different software. Pretty much anything that you need is going to work out of the box. As far as everything else here, let's pull this guy down. Let's look down here. So we have power modes. We can do a performance, a balanced, and a power saver mode. There's wired. I expect to see some wireless options in there as well. It's possibly because I'm on a VirtualBox. We are on a laptop that supports all that Bluetooth and wireless. Maybe my VirtualBox doesn't have that stuff passed over. I have not worked with the virtual machine on this particular laptop for a while because I couldn't support them before upgrading to this one. But anyway, let's go ahead and have a look at our system here. So we are on Fedora 42. This is the new system. Of course, this exact operating system used to be in an old i5. I just ported the operating system over this new laptop here a couple months ago. You can see the video about that. See, we're on Wayland. We're running Linux kernel 6.14. We're on Gnome version 48. So that is what we have there. Of course, Gnome 48 has your well-being options in here. We've covered those in many other videos. You can connect pretty much any form of online accounts. So if you're looking at this and going, oh, I just need those Microsoft 365 stuff, you can do it on many different desktop environments in Linux. Gnome probably has the best support for if you're needing Microsoft or Office 365 support. Gnome probably has the best support for that, particularly Fedora and Gnome. So this would be a good place to go. You can do your Nextcloud, you can do your Google. There's generic web davs, generic email calendars, and things like that. So those are actually nice functions. So if you actually were to set up either a web dav, a Google, you can see does calendars, Microsoft does calendars, and Nextcloud does calendars. If you use your calendars, then you can actually see just in the basic calendar app, everything will sync in. In fact, let me just go ahead and show you that real quick. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to obfuscate it by just deleting this part of the video as I sign into my server. Okay, so having gotten signed into my account, integrated into the system, I can see I have appointments on each of these individual days with the dots. Those are actually things that show up in my system. So, and of course I can get more details. If I just pull up the calendar app that's built right in, you can see it just logs everything right all in. So you can see that everything there is actually synced in perfectly fine, just simply by adding my Nextcloud account, which is where I add my calendars and contacts. I think contacts should show up in the same way as well. So we'll just select that's the Nextcloud, and then there's all of my contacts just showed up. So this actually works pretty well. Sorry that those were mostly blurred out and you couldn't see them, but yeah, I'm not sharing my real data with you. Sorry. I love you guys, but you know, just not enough to share my actual my private calendar publicly right here. Just to show you that that's how easy it is. I simply logged in with my Nextcloud account, and I can see my contacts. I can see my calendars. You can also see files as well. Basically it'll show up as a file share on your basic Nautilus, which is the files application. It's one of those weird things with Gnome, by the way. The file manager is actually called Nautilus, but it's called files in the system because I don't know. But that we're still connected, it'd be another option down there. So it works out pretty stinking well though. So yeah, this is the thing about Fedora. There was a time when I first started using Linux, Fedora was very difficult to work with. It didn't do much media files easily. There were a lot of challenges with it. And this is probably, if I were be giving Linux distribution awards, this is the one I would say most improved, because Fedora went to something that was fairly niche and very difficult to use as long as, as recently back as a decade ago. And nowadays, I feel fairly comfortable handing Fedora to a brand new person. Now, it's a little bit different of an operating system than Windows or Mac, but it is intuitive, it is fairly easy to use, and it does get the job done. Now, obviously, it's not my personal cup of tea. That's why I don't use Gnome. If I have the choice of desktop environments, Gnome is not my first choice. But it is a very good desktop environment. And even though I am generally camp Xorg, let's keep X around because it functions, Fedora is the distribution that is leading the way to give us the data we need to get Wayland ready for the more mainstream. And as much of the criticism as I have for Wayland, I do agree we need to get Wayland fully functional. And as long as we keep holding on to X, then it's never going to ultimately happen. We're basically, you can think of it, it's the helicopter parents. As long as we keep on ways of getting X to run, then we're not letting the development forward. But at the same time, we can't totally abandon X everywhere. I'm glad Fedora is doing it. I don't want Debian to do it. I don't really want Ubuntu to do it yet. I certainly don't want Linux Mint to do it yet. And the reason for this is because there's a lot of us that require apps that still require that old way of doing things. And I just need my work done. I don't have time to figure out what exact system I need to do to get everything running. Let's have a look at the system resources running right now. See the CPUs just sitting here, and we are in a virtual machine, by the way. I've given it 8 CPUs, and they're not exactly stressing out. It's sitting here at 2.6 gigs of RAM, so it is pretty beefy as far as the RAM usage. However, modern computers generally have like 8 is a cheap crap computer these days. So 2.6 gigs of RAM out of that minimum of 8 is not bad. It performs very well with the 6 I've given it in this virtual machine. This whole laptop has 16 gigs. And so overall, this is a nice system. I do like the way it works. I do like the function of it. Let me see if I can remember my keys. There we go. The thing about Gnome is it is really based for using keyboard shortcuts. And if you don't know them, it's confusing. If you do know them, it is amazing. So let's go and have a look at their Office implementation. So they're using LibreOffice, which is my preferred Office of choice. I did notice they have the more limited. They just have the Libre Impress. They have the Libre Writer. They have the Libre Calc. It is possible to install more programs for LibreOffice. Most distributions just stick with a bare minimum of these 3. That's what most people use, but there is a free databasing system. If you're into databasing, there is a drawing tool which allows you to edit PDFs, make active PDFs. There's a math one, allows you to do mathematical equation type things. So there's a number of other tools in there as well. So LibreOffice is a totally awesome word processor system. Now you'll notice that it does have that old school with the toolbars. Some people don't like that. I personally do. However, it is actually fairly simple under the view and under the user interface. You can actually go to the more modern tabbed option right here. And so you can come over here and it's the same tabbed options you are used to. And there's actually a few other options in there as well. Under your manage button, no, it's not manage button. It's somewhere over here. Is it this one? There you go. There's a user interface. There's how you change it back. You can do a single toolbar. You can do sidebars. You can do a tabbed compact, a much more compact version, grouped compact, and a contextual single. So let's apply to all. So there's what this one here looks like. So there's a number of different options that you have for changing the layout the way you might like to have it. You can hit apply to writer or apply to all. This one will apply this tab just to the writer application. Apply to all applies it to all of the LibreOffice applications. All right, so there is our brief look at Fedora 42 on Gnome. Without X, this thing does run very well out of the box. Now, of course, we haven't tested installing a lot of applications, testing how applications work. Of course, the one area you might have some issues with is screen sharing is sometimes a little spotty. Some people mentioned that remote desktop can be spotty, although I have seen some evidence that some of that stuff has actually been resolved in the more modern views. So just have a look at Fedora if you are into this. Now, I do realize that not everybody among my audience necessarily likes Gnome or Fedora or things like that, but this is definitely a good, compelling distribution that has made massive strides in the modern day to become what I would consider a good user-friendly distribution. Think of this. This is so easy to install. I have the option of the free or non-free right out of the box. We have a very competent software installer. Although it's a little big and bloated and slow, it functions. It does a good job. We have Flatpaks integrated out of the box. So that means that we have some safety and containerization. We have the basic tools that we need. And overall, the system works. Even without X, they've gotten this thing to work a lot better than many other distros who have dropped X for Wayland and haven't put the polish into it that Fedora has. So kudos to the team on this one, and for the GNOME project as well. Sometimes they're crazy, but they are getting some good things done in the GNOME desktop environment. Still not my cup of tea, but it is a good and a compelling desktop. So there's our look at GNOME 48 inside of Fedora 42. Have a look at it yourself. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.